Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
Hi, Max. How are you?
I'm great, Sergey. Thank you for having me again.
Max, I want to remind our viewers that Max is one of the leading experts in the United States on car dealerships operations. We published one of his books. He's got a lot of those books. It's called Идеальный дилерский центр. It's called Perfect Dealership in English. And we are about to release his second book. It's called Car Business 101. And it's going to be, since there is no 101 in Russian, it's going to be Основы автобизнеса. So, Max, we thank you for your time and want to ask you a few questions about automotive business in general and your new book. The first question is kind of screaming. There were a lot of things, unexpected things last year in car business. Tell us a little bit about the trends, that happened in car business because of the pandemic.
You're right. 2020 was an incredible year. It was very unexpected, and it was an emotional roller coaster for, I'm sure, people like you and me, and for car dealers. Because if you look back at, beginning of March, it really felt like the world was coming to an end. And car buying, is not that important, when everything is closing and collapsing. So for me, right, the most notable development was the realization how important service department is. Because in the United States, service department has been designated as an essential place that cannot be closed. Whereas many states closed the sales department in the beginning of the pandemic. So if you were a dealer who was really good at selling cars, it really didn't help you. You needed to be a dealer who was really good at selling parts and service. Parts and labor. And to me, that was paramount because unfortunately, especially in high density population areas, oftentimes dealers ignore service because they feel that they can always sell their way out of a problem. And this pandemic showed everybody that life is unpredictable and you really need to be good at everything you do. You cannot consciously choose to overcompensate in sales and ignore service.
I see. So what you're saying is, I just want to underscore it, is the value and the importance of service department was actually, it was always very important. We spoke about it last year when we were talking about the first book, but with the pandemic and with those developments, the importance went up beyond that. I see. Now, on the sales side, did you see any sales trends that slowed down or accelerated due to the new aspects that have to do with pandemic on the sales side?
So I have to tell you, this is a tricky question, because if you think about it logically, your gut feeling would tell you that digital retail became really, really important, right? Since people either couldn't go to the dealership or were prohibited to go. Unfortunately, reality is a little different. Meaning, yes, in the beginning, I think every dealer in the United States signed up for some form of a digital retail tool. But then when the lockdown was lifted, it was the most incredible development, right? People just went to the dealership. There was a pent-up demand and there was a shortage of inventory. And people did not care for the digital retail tools. Remember this expression, the bus full of customers pulls up to the dealership as a joke? Well, this was not a joke. It was real. So unfortunately, a lot of dealers never believed in digital retail prior to the coronavirus. And again, unfortunately, these guys got a confirmation that they can still sell cars, be extremely profitable, doing it the old-fashioned way. And I want to stress the fact that, I would say between end of May and end of December, these were the most profitable months in automotive retail in American history. People that were losing $2,100 a car before coronavirus were making $4,000 a car. That's a $6,000 swing. Not because they got better, but because market conditions were such. So the point that I'm trying to make is that dealers that still do not believe in digital retail, they got a false positive. Right, because market conditions are going to change again, meaning, factories will be open 24/7. Eventually, the supply chain problems will be solved. And again, there'll be more cars than potential buyers. So, and at the same time, our behavior as consumers has been changing drastically over the last year because of coronavirus, because we're so used to now ordering everything online, that for many of us, it would be almost counterproductive to go to the showroom and negotiate a car deal.
I see. I want to make two comments. First of all, this is sort of a funny comment. Back in days when I was selling cars, which was late 80s, early 90s, when I was a car salesman, there was a slang. What are you doing? Waiting for an up bus?
That's right.
And and that was like, do something, can't just wait. And finally, in 2020, this slang became a reality. There are up buses coming to the dealerships. Anyway, but that's a joke. But on the more important side, I want to underscore that, strangely but true, this pandemic, which was logically supposed to accelerate the digital trends in retail, actually, we all know that last year was one of the most profitable years in car business. Amazing.
It set it back, digital retail, probably by a decade.
Right. So it actually slowed down the implementation of the digital technologies and digital retailing because dealers became complacent. They actually, why bother? We're making money anyway. So why go through something that may work or may not work? And it needs the process, it needs the effort. So that's a very interesting point. Now let's go to your book. Your new book, it's actually the next book that we're going to publish is called Car Business 101. And in Russian, it sounds a lot more like basics of car business. And we would like to ask you, what is specifically different in the book Car Business 101 from your first book that we published, which was The Perfect Dealership? Are there any new ideas or methods in your second book that you would like to specifically point out to? Tell us what's different about that book.
So when I wrote Perfect Dealership, the idea was to lay the foundation. So if somebody was in automotive retail or was planning to get into this business, they can understand how everything should work pretty much in the perfect world. Again, this is maybe me being, younger and more naive, In reality, I am in car dealerships every day. So there's a drastic difference between what I wrote in Perfect Dealership and what I actually see in the trenches. Therefore, I wrote the second book, Car Business 101, which is the flip side of Perfect Dealership. So Car Business 101 actually talks about what really happens. It shows the insanity that goes on in car dealerships on a daily basis. And a lot of times dealers do these crazy things without even thinking about it. It's almost on autopilot. And that was the whole purpose, to really show them what they are doing and how sometimes ridiculous and counterproductive it is.
I see. It's a great point. So again, I always like to underscore. So the Perfect Dealership it's a conservative book. It's a great book. It lays out the foundation for the perfect dealership, just as the book is called. It shows how all the departments can work together as a whole. It shows the best practices, best methods. Your second book, Car Business 101, shows the reality and the mistakes that are made and how they affect the overall operation. So this is what it should be, and this is how it is. Now, I also want to, I don't want to talk about the details of the book. I want our viewers to buy it. I want to point to one very interesting thing in that book. There is a chapter that's called Sell Parts and Service Online. And it repeats twice. And first I thought, why is it there twice? But then I read it very carefully, and the reason it's there twice is because you want to put an emphasis. People, you are missing a boat on this. You know, you are missing a big boat on this. So it's actually a very interesting point that almost the same chapter is twice in the book, and it's not a misprint. It's not an error. It's just how you want to pay attention to a very big unrealized opportunity.
So you're right. You know, my goal when writing this book was to really wake up the dealer body and say, guys, unless you recognize this insanity that goes on in your showrooms, time is running out, right? We no longer have no competition, right? Competition is everywhere. We have manufacturers that are going direct to consumers like Tesla. We have used car retailers like Carvana, right, selling hundreds of thousands of cars a year. So what happens is that we are not. This is a zero-sum game, right? So every car sold by Carvana or sold by Tesla or sold by anybody else means that car was not sold by a dealer. Right? We do not have an infinite amount of customers. We cannot say, well, you know, don't worry about it. You know, there's enough for everybody. There is not enough for everybody. Right? And I want to give you a perfect example from this book. So I wrote the book, I think, at the very end of 2018. And at the time of writing, market cap of Carvana was $4.5 billion. I checked yesterday. Their market cap as of yesterday is $48 billion. So in 2 years, their market value increased 11 times. Let's be honest. How many car dealers can say that about their business?
Especially the ones that are losing money.
Correct. So listen, we can debate digital retail. We can, you know, argue till we're blue in the face, but the proof of concept is there, right? Wall Street is behind it. A regular consumer is behind it. So, you know, again, you don't need to fight it. Just adapt it, because that's what the consumer wants, right? And they want it across the board. They don't want it just in car sales. They want it in service. They want it in parts. They want it in the body shop.
I see, Max. That's a great point. I just want to, with this point, I want to underscore something which seems to me is where you were leading with this. Wall Street and the investors are not looking at today's performance as much as they're looking for the future. With Carvana, they haven't made profit I don't think they ever made profit. They're losing money. They're bragging that this year we lost less than last year. And their market cap and therefore their value increased tenfold. The same thing with Tesla that you just mentioned. They are worth more than, I think I checked a few days ago, they're worth more than 10 next largest car manufacturers combined.
Correct.
And they sell hundreds of thousands of cars when some like Volkswagen and Toyota sell millions and make money. Tesla also is questionable whether they make money or not. So the future is where the investors are looking for, and that goes along for the digital retailing and the best practices and the stuff that we discussed. So people don't get stuck in today. Go look in the future. If you are looking at this business as your life, as the strategic opportunity, look into the future. Go with the future.
Right. Exactly. So by no means I'm saying, hey guys, go ahead and start losing money to be competitive. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if during coronavirus, your service department did not have an online scheduler, or your service department did not offer pickup and delivery, you were pretty much out of business.
I see. I agree with you. Just a couple questions left, Max. The first book, when we discussed your first book, I asked you who should be the audience. Should that be the salespeople or the managers or the general managers or the owners? And your answer was that anybody who takes car business seriously should read the book, because it will open the insight into what the car business is, what it actually should be. And you can help your career by reading it, by understanding it as a whole. Now, what about the second book? Who should be the audience of the second book? Should that be the same people, or should that be fine-tuned to somebody else? Tell us who should be getting and reading this book.
So yeah, I think it should be the same audience, meaning it really doesn't matter, right? If you're selling cars, or if you're running a car dealership, or you happen to own an auto group, right? Sometimes somebody from an outside has to tell you like it is, right? Because people from the inside oftentimes are afraid to do that. Or you can have a situation where everybody in the organization is the yes man, right? And no matter how bad the policy or the procedure or the process is, they're gonna agree with it. So now, instead of creating an internal confrontation, they can say, listen, I just read this book, and the guy makes a good point about this, and that. Maybe we should try it.
I see.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
It's a great point. Max, again, I want to underscore it because, as we discussed, the first book is how it should be, and the second book is how it really is, and sort of, showing the issues and the problems and how to address them. The audience should be the same. This way, people can actually expand on the knowledge that they got out of the first book and see the reality. And the last question, I'm sure you know that our sponsor is Avito Auto. It's the largest classified site in Russia and the second largest in the world after Craigslist, and they are official partner of ROAD, which is the Russian equivalent of NADA, and they support projects that help automotive business in Russia move forward. So they asked, this question is from them. They are asking, what would be your one best advice to dealers in Russia, considering the current trends that are in fact valid right now at the beginning of 2021? What would be your best advice?
Listen to the customer. So don't think that you know it all. I don't think that I know it all, right? Just listen to the customer. If the customer wants to get the price on the website, or the price over the phone, or the customer wants to have their car picked up and delivered for service, or if the customer wants to see your parts catalog online and be able to put the parts that he or she is looking for into a shopping cart and do a checkout and have them delivered, that's what we have to do, right? There's no reason to force your way of doing business on the consumer, because at this point, consumer is in complete control, right? This is not 1980 when there is no internet and customers were coming into the showroom. You didn't even have to put a Maroni sticker on the car. You could have quoted any price whatsoever. Those days are gone. So the power shifted, right? Dealers have zero power, zero. And once you understand that you're completely powerless, right? All you have to do to survive is just listen to the consumer. Just look at Apple, right? You can go to the Apple store and do the research about any product that they sell, speak to a salesperson, and then you can leave and buy that product on Apple's website for the same price that you saw in a showroom. So at the end of the day, they don't care if you do it in person or if you do it online. They're willing to accommodate you either way. They're not saying, no, we're Apple, we're one of the most valuable companies in the world, and you can only get it in our showroom, or you can only get it on our website, right? They're completely flexible. So I want to encourage dealers to think the same way. Our mission is to make customers happy. And you can only make them happy if you make the process easy, transparent, and frictionless.
I see. Max, as I do after all your answers, I want to underscore. First, I want to say, again, a funny thing. Again, back in the days when I just started to sell cars, I remember, this is to follow up your note that you didn't have to put Monroney label on. When I just started to sell cars, my first boss told me, you remember the days when there was no price on used cars. It's just FTC label and that's it, no price. If the customer, my boss told me that, if the customer is asking you what is the price of this car, you think of the highest possible price that you are not afraid to say, add $1,000 to it and tell that to the customer. But that's a joke. Those days are long gone.
Exactly.
On the serious side, listen to the customer, help them take you to the future, help them build the changes and form your business approach. That would be the best advice that you would give to the customer.
Right. And the funny thing is that all of us, right, in the car business, whether you work as a salesperson, finance manager, or you're the owner, right, we are the customers, right? We are the consumers in the rest of the time, right? We shop online, right? We order things online, whether it's clothes, whether it's food, right? Whether it's electronics, right? So we know as consumers what's convenient. We just have to be able to start making this separation between our personal life and our business life. And for some reason, we believe in everything that we do in our personal life. But when I tell you, why don't you apply the same principles to your career in car business? People say, no, it's never going to work in car business. So it's a total, illogical disconnect.
Max, I think it was a great webinar. I think it was dynamic. It was very useful, even to me. I got a lot of good information that I can use. I want to thank you very much for your time. Again, thank you for an opportunity to publish your books and bring this valuable information to the Russian automotive community, dealers and automotive manufacturers. Thank you very much again, and I wish you luck in your own endeavors. And I hope that once this travel madness is over, we do end up seeing you in Russia.
Exactly. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to coming and visiting with Russian dealers.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.